Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K. And it's finally November. Feels like only yesterday, 2022 had begun. And I'm kind of happy it's almost over. So, it is my birth month. So, I got a lot of fun videos planned for this month. And to start off, we're taking a little detour to a new DLC review that for once came out this year. And I'm so excited to talk about it. Even though the subject matter makes me want to throw my controller across the room, have a tantrum, and quite honestly, regret every single moment of this experience. For those of you who don't know, I am boiling about this amazing DLC that at the same time is definitely going to make everyone mad as hell. And I'm explaining this like this because it's a game that's hard as hell. And the only reason that I'm not screaming at the top of my lungs right now is because my folks are upstairs sleeping as it's about 2 a.m. here. So yeah, I have to restrain myself as much as I could. For those of you who are wondering what it would have been like if I actually yelled, here are a couple examples. What the hell? Did I actually yell or did something get put over it? Okay. Going back to my topic of this, what DLC I'm talking about the Cuphead DLC, the Delicious Last Course. Ha ha ha. DLC. I haven't seen something that obvious since it was the Sunset Overdrive where the boss was the DLC monster, as in the sea. I may be talking sarcastic, but this was a fantastic DLC. One I didn't know I wanted, nor did I actually want because it's absolutely infuriating. And with Cuphead Season 4 coming out sometime this month, and I still need to catch up on, or Season 3, and with me having to catch up on Season 2, I've rambled enough. I decided to start the month off with this delicious but very infuriating DLC. To start off, basically the story goes is you will go to the harbor and a ferry will bring you to this new island where Miss Chalice is in ghost form, which she was throughout the Perry missions of the main game. And she tells us that in the astral plane, if Cuphead eats or Mugman eats a cookie, an astral cookie, she will take over the gameplay. It doesn't last long, so we go to the resident chef genius, Chef Saltbaker, and he tells us of the Wonder Tart, which could replenish the astral form of someone. But the problem is it requires very specific ingredients. And I'm going to be honest, yeah, that's actually pretty ingenious now that I think about it. Let's see. Trying to remember the ingredients here. Anyway, basically throughout the game, you can either play as either Cuphead or Mugman, depending on where you start on the main menu. And if you are so inclined, you can attach the astral cookie as an object so that you can fight as Miss Chalice. It's been a while since I played the game and ever watched the show, so my memory of stuff is a little off. And Miss Chalice has her own set of abilities from her own special, where she can double jump. Yeah, she can basically double jump with parry, I believe. That's what it is. I'm pretty sure. This person will, whoever this voice is, will correct me. And she also has a dodge roll ability, which comes quite in handy in certain bosses. So if you want to defeat certain bosses realistically, you're gonna have to play as Miss Chalice a little bit, especially when you at the Moonshine Mob. That's particular. So the ingredients are a special fermentation yeast, limes. Oh yeah, I just remembered. Limes, berries, sugar cubes, and one second, ladies and gentlemen. Pineapple mint. That's the ingredient I was missing. Pineapple bomb, pineapple mint. I feel like a moron. But yeah, it is these ingredients that you will obtain once you defeat the 5 main bosses of the game. Going back to my big thing about this game is, I mean, it was released in June of this year, so yeah, it's been a couple months. And the main story and the main game, you know, if you're a good player, will take you 3 hours. And for completing everything, which means like the extra stuff and some of the trophies, will take you about 8 hours. And it's not that fun doing it, I'm going to be honest. And I mean that in the best way and also the worst way. For example, if you've played the Cuphead game and constantly swore at the game, take that and increase it crank it up to the 11, because you're going to be swearing at this DLC probably more than you did the last game, and this has less bosses in it. Think on that, why don't you, while I explain this. The bosses in this game are absolutely worse than the main game. How is this possible? I mean, I know this game is made by 3 people. I mean, maybe even more now. But what sociopath made these bosses harder? But again, it's that level of difficulty that is still enjoyable to me. But I mean, and again, that's what makes that's what makes Cuphead an amazing game, is the level of difficulty and the fact that it doesn't spike at certain characters. Okay, yeah, it does spike with certain characters, but at the same time, if you do it multiple times and die a good number of times, you are definitely going to feel the heat, and especially in certain situations when you're almost finished and then you're at your last life and you're clinging on to it for dear life. But what makes these boss fights a little bit more easier, and by a little bit easier, that's like saying, oh my God, it's like 102 degrees outside. I'm starting to get hot. Maybe if I take my shirt off, it will get less hot. That's how much help these new weapons do. Although, to be honest, throwing a glass of a cold lemonade in there, and it kind of helps a little bit more. We get a bunch of new attacks. We've got... Where is it? Come on, where is it? Well, I can't remember all of them, because the only one that you'll really use is the crack shot, where if you're facing away from a target, it will just shoot and go and ricochet right towards any enemy that's near, whether it be the boss itself or some of their minions that they flood on the screen. Oh yeah, if the bosses in this game weren't freaking bad enough, they have minions that they can implement and flood the screen with. It's almost like when you're playing Mario Kart and someone sends a blooper over to you and it will shoot ink all over your screen so you can't really see everything you're going. That's what these do. They flood the screen, making your eye wander, so you gotta keep track of multiple shit. And it is actually kind of enjoyable. It is actually enjoyable. And all the bosses, they have like a sophisticated theme to them. And I do enjoy it. Like there's the moonshine mob, which are a bunch of underground insects. And they don't really attack you. The environment attacks you. From the cop bugs to their goons. Like the spider will walk around the 3 lanes and you'll have to dodge him. And he'll keep calling reinforcements or laying bombs. We have Mortimer Freeze. And yes, I'm explaining the bosses, but not fully. Who's this Ice King lookalike who is a snow occultist? I don't know. We got Glumstone the Giant, which is a nightmare to fight. And he's one of the first 2 bosses that we actually have to fight. So the fact that his boss fight sets the tone for the whole game, it starts it off. Yeah, this is definitely a DLC where you do not want to get drunk with your friends and play, because you're going to be swearing at each other a lot more. I mean, not that I have experience with that, but I'm just betting. We've got the Howling Aces, which is about an Air Force squadron of a bulldog, pups, and a golden retriever, I think. And the boss fight, their boss fight is actually quite enjoyable in the multi phases. And the one thing I noticed, and that no one probably knows unless you've watched NCIS or know stuff about this, is that the second phase of this boss fight, where the 4 pups are spinning around and barking letters at you, when you die at their section, their taunt for the screen is "Affirm Roger Fox." For those of you who don't understand what that is referring to, let me spell it out for you. Basically, it's the alphanumeric alphabet where words are being used to explain letters. So there's no confusion. So, affirm Roger Fox. Yeah, they're basically saying "arf" to you in the numeric in the alphanumeric alphabet. And they're puppies. How adorable is that? I'm sorry. Like, when I figured that out, it was the cutest thing, and it didn't make me like losing to these stupid mutts, but at the same time, it was enjoyable nonetheless. And then we have Sheriff Winchester, who the boss fight is really weird, and it's the only airplane boss. That kind of is weird to me, that there's only, like, out of Moonshine Mob, Glumstone, Mortimer, Aces, Winchester. Out of the 5 bosses in this game, okay, 6 if you include the final, there's only 1 airplane fight. And that's a thing that I kind of have an issue with this DLC. It's a small gripe, is that there's not that many bosses in Maine. I mean, there's a special boss gauntlet that you can do where the king says if you can beat his loyal subjects in a gauntlet, you get riches. And obviously you need coins in order to get the new upgrades and weapons. But here's the twist. Sorry. All of your weapons are gone. The key to all these bosses, all the chess themed bosses, is that you have to parry them. That's right. You don't get to hurt them unless you parry them. And the way they do the boss fights are actually ingenious. The pawns, having a whole bunch of mini pawns where you'll have to get one at a time until you get to the end. Although it is a frustration thing. We got the loser of a knight who's basically a horse who's honestly is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and it's absolutely hilarious. We got the bishop who's an actual bishop in a church. So I did make a really, like when I was playing this game and I was by myself, I actually made a really, really, really bad joke about this boss fight that I don't intend to repeat. And then we have the rook, who's more of like an executioner, sending severed heads our way. And then we have the queen, who we have to hit with cannons while also dodging her rich attacks. And when I say rich attacks, yeah, we're in the treasure room. And as much as I love these bosses, they're like, as much as I hate these bosses because of how frustrating their tells and their patterns are, they do give a really, really interesting challenge. Parrying instead of basically attacking. Because we spent an entire game fighting a whole bunch of enemies. So why not switch it up a little bit? And I do enjoy that. I only wish is that after we defeated all 5 of them, we got to fight the king in a special one where we also had to parry. But instead, we do it with the airplane. So at least we would have gotten at least one extra airplane fight out of this DLC. And then there's the secret boss where okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Listen to this, because I shit you not. This is legitimate real. The secret boss fight is random every time you play the DLC. I mean, once you unlock it, you can redo it as many times as you want. But unlocking it is random. Basically, and this is a cute thing, you will go to these 3 people who are on the podium, ask them in order of their placement, and they will give you certain directions of which tombstones to hit in order to release the ghosts. You do this, you will take a nap, and then you will get one of the most irritating bosses, but at the same time, one of the most interesting bosses. I'm not going to give this one away because it is a secret. And once we collect all of the ingredients, and when I say all, I mean all 5, we head back to Saltbaker's bakery, and we go into the basement, which is very creepy. And yeah, big shock. The guy who's helping us is going to be the final villain. How many times in video games have we had that happen? Actually, now that I think about it, didn't the Duke in Resident Evil Village become a villain in the DLC? He did? Just checking. But seriously, when someone offers to help us, I'm pretty sure they're going to be the villain. Because I can see the twist coming a mile away. So we get the final boss fight, and I guess and you're probably wondering, for those of you who've never played it, how is the boss fight, the final boss, and how does it stack off to the devil boss fight? I'm going to explain it to you this way. Devil is about here on the hard challenging level. Here's Chef Saltbaker. If you don't understand that, guys, I can't help you anymore. Chef Saltbaker's boss fight is absolute satanic culinary bizarreness. What makes this... Okay, I'm just going to explain this as simple as I can, because I don't think anyone in YouTube or any review has ever said this about Chef Saltbaker. This boss fight is what happens when you take the Swedish chef from the Muppets and mix him with the satanic soul of Chucky. Yeah, that's how bad it is. That's how, not bad as in terrible, but bad as in just a bat shittery. And what makes it even worse, okay, you guys know that boss fight in Arkham City that everyone loves, where no matter how much upgrading of your gadgets or techniques that you did, once you do one of them, Mr. Freeze will adapt and learn from it, so you won't be able to do the same thing over again. This is something like that, except this entire game we've been battling all these hard and really difficult bosses and collecting all these ingredients for the Wonder Tart. Chef Saltbaker uses these very ingredients to attack us! Yeah, he's literally food fighting us. No, not that food fight. Make it go away. Is it gone? Okay. Yeah, he's literally food fighting us right now. He uses the dough mixture to create animal crackers that will hop along the field to hit us. And yeah, it will show. And what makes this even creepier is, okay, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We're in Muppet World, where, remember in the Muppets when even the vegetables talked and the food talked? When Swedish Chef was attacking them? Or any One Piece fans, remember in Whole Cake Island, where all the food talks and has emotions? Yeah, I think this game took reference in that, because every time he's using the ingredients, we see their faces and they're getting destroyed and stuff. From the dough, we see it getting massaged and turn into the cookies. From the lemons, which will do this move, which will go up and down lower, will come up and go up. So we'll have to dodge or duck, jump or duck. We see the lemons getting sliced up while they're alive. We see the sugar cubes getting broken as they do another dance move upwards. What else do we get? The berries. God, I'm gonna have to rewatch this before the editing gets done and everything. Shoot, the berries do something. I'll put up the information right here because I can't remember. And then when we hit him hard enough. If you think it wasn't enough, he takes us into the palm of his hand, and there's 4 salt and pepper shakers in each corner where we will have to shoot them down so they'll slam into his glass face. All the while, he is using the last ingredient, the pineapple mint, which is cascading along the field, coming downwards, where we have to dodge it while we're shooting, which, again, the crack shot definitely makes up for this. Makes up for the ability to not have to focus on a salt shaker. And then, once he's destroyed, we're in a salty dominion, which is, you'd think this would, like, the fact that these final 2 stages have very low health, you still gotta keep up. And, again, the DLC is pretty much over before. Okay, yeah, that's not true, because if you take your time and you're dying a lot in the DLC, it's going to take you longer than 8 hours. I don't know what this record says. It feels like you play it for about a week, which, to be fair, I think it took me about 2 to 3 weeks to beat this DLC, and that's without me. And I think I've died on Chef Saltbaker more times than I've died on the devil. No, you know what? Scratch that. More times than I died on Rumor Honeybottom, Dr. Call's Robot, Baroness von Bonbon, the casino bosses, and Grim Matchstick. I've died on the chef more than I've died on the hardest bosses of the main game. Oh my God. So yeah, Like I said, this DLC is harder than the main game. But at the same time, I actually enjoyed it. It was fantastic. And all honesty, now that this DLC is done, I want to see these characters in the new Cuphead season. I really do. Or maybe the season after this new one, because they're probably going to add more. And I got to give props to the creators of this game, the company. You guys gave me something that I'm never going to forget in my life. And you're never going to let me forget it because of that. Because of these boss fights. If I ever do a hardest boss, like if anyone does a list of any hard bosses, Cuphead is immediately going to come up on here. But I think the Delicious Last Course was definitely... It was definitely a meal that had a sour aftertaste, but it was enjoyable to every last crumb. So, that's all I gotta say about this infuriatingly amazing review. So, GamerK's final verdict on Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course, is a absolutely adequate and delicious 9 out of 10. The DLC gets a 9, not just because of the intensity of all of the main bosses that we have to fight, and the final boss being something that even the most hardcore gamers would probably be crying in the corner that they can't fight it. But when you also bring in the side bosses, like the chess bosses, and also the fact there's no running gun sections, which I kind of enjoyed not having to do those. This is definitely one of the DLCs that I'll definitely keep in my top lists. And if I ever do a DLC boss list, dear God, I'm going to have to outsource. And that's all for this weekly video, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed this delicious last DLC. Okay, yeah, that was pretty lame. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and join me next week, ladies and gentlemen. Or, no, you know what? Maybe next week. Or because there's 5. No, you know what? Yeah, next week. Join me next week where we unveil the curtain at some of my favorite stages throughout another underrated game. This is Gamer K, logging out.